Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, we're using the recently released Firmware 21 full release for the Cygnus X2 featuring the new Fractal Audio Cygnus X2 modeling. And I want to play around with what have very quickly become some of my favorite amps in the Cygnus X2, the Brit 800 model and friends. We're going to start off with the Brit 800 model. I did a video on the FM9 beta release, or beta release as I would call it, recently on my channel, which you can check out. But I mentioned there that I was loving this Brit 800. I'm going to be using it with my go-to Cab IR, LT-TV Mix 7, available for free on Exchange, and a little bit of this Recording Studio C reverb. With a Les Paul on the bridge pickup, this immediately just sounds like rock and roll. It's instantly a good time. It is pretty bright though, and this with a Strat would be excruciatingly bright. One cool thing about that though is with the real amp and with the model, turn the master volume up. Absolutely crank it. Anywhere beyond 7 starts to sound even nastier and more glorious. And use the 3-band EQ on there. If it's a little bit bright, maybe bring out some treble. I like to boost up the mids and the bass a little bit with this particular guitar, even though it's got humbuckers, it is still pretty bright. So volume at 7 on there now. And with these little tweaks, this is like the sound of the late 70s and early 80s to me. And of course I played Rock Bottom, which is from 1974, mid-70s, but very, very Michael Schenker to me. That's what I want to play when I hear this particular amp. And of course, as you bring the gain control up on this, the effect of the bright cap on there is kind of going to be negated. So you will get less of that clicky pick attack thing on there. I'll just do that. I'll bring the gain up, say to around 8. Getting that sticky, gainier Marshall thing going on. Even though the Brit 800 isn't really a super high gain amp, it's pretty cool for clean sounds as well. And one nice thing about Cygnus X2 is rolling off your volume control on the guitar interacts really nicely with the amp. So if I just bring the volume on my guitar to around 5. These amps take boosts and drive pedals really, really well. A classic combo is, a Boss Super Overdrive into a JCM 800. So let's do that. We will bring up the Super OD. The Rad is great into it as well. Drive low, bring the tone up to around 1, 2 o'clock, crank the level. This is now more of like a mid-80s thing. This is really, really nasty. If you wanted to go further with this particular model, I think it is a great platform for kind of virtual amp mods. Namely, if you go to the preamp section and engage the saturation switch, this kind of does a virtual Jose mod in there. I like to set it to on ideal because that won't cut out the volume like a real Jose mod, but you turn that on and it just gets even nastier. is sounding pretty epic in there, and it's getting gainier and heavier. Another fun one is go to the power amp section and change the master volume to post phase inverter in here. You do lose a little bit of volume, so just compensate with that on the level control. I find this combined with turning up the negative feedback can basically make the sound a lot more modern, a lot more kind of modded and in your face. And there's so many high gain amps in the real world that are just modified JCM 800s. So we can do this in the box. Let's say take the negative feedback to 3 over here. And what I'll do in the preamp is I'll set up the CC boost as a pre-boost on there. So we've got saturation on, we've got the post phase inverter master, I've turned the negative feedback up, and then we'll kick in a CC boost. Massive. We've gone from, kind of early rock and roll stuff to volume control rolled down sparkly cleans to this mega chunk on here. There's a couple of other variations of the Brit 800 I would highly recommend playing around with if you don't like the core flavor there. The Brit 800 number 34 is based on a pretty, let's call it infamous modded amp that was at a rehearsal studio that loaned out gear in LA in the mid to late 80s and ended up on quite a few famous records. So this one, just by its very nature, is a lot brighter straight up. So again, even more so with the Strat, you might want to dial back some treble on this one. But this is perfect for that late 80s kind of raunch on there. What I also like to do with this is maybe bring the master up, maybe only to around 6. And I basically just leave everything else where it is. Maybe kick the super OD in front as a boost, and it's super fun. Same virtual mods that we did to the Brit 800 would all work really well here. The saturation, the negative feedback, and the post-phase inverter master volume. It's super fun. It's just like a no-risk, no-cost way to take something that you already like and play around with it. I would highly recommend it. On Channel C here, I've got the straight-up Brit 800 mod. And this, if you want that more chunky, hard rock metal sound out of a JCM 800 style amp, I would start with this one. It's very, very similar to the stock 800. I'll let you hear it stock settings, and I'm going to dial it in and really go for that kind of early 90s sludgy thing. that one, to me, if you chuck on some pitch detune or some stereo chorus, I might go with the pitch detune. It's kind of like my ultimate late 80s, early 90s hybrid tone in there for playing in drop tunings. It is so fun. Just a bit of like plus or minus 9 cents detune on here. I'll let you hear that on top of this Brit 800 mod. Like I mentioned earlier, you could take the core Brit 800 and do some virtual mods to it, but I think Brit 800 mod is just easier to dial in. Now, all these tones are simply starting points and suggestions. I would highly encourage you to go through all of the Brit models on there. And if you like this, the Atomica High, the CCV, and of course, all the Friedman BE and HBE models are probably going to make you very happy as well. If I was going to start out with a model, like I said, for more of a classic rock thing, I'd start with the Brit 800. If I was going more for that kind of like late 80s sleaze rock and roll thing, Brit 800 number 34. If I was doing more of a modern thing, I would use Brit 800 mod as my starting point. Turn the depth up, get that big low end response on there, and have a good time. Let me know your favorite kind of Marshall JCM 800 style model in the comments below. If you've got any suggestions for future Tuesday tone tips, let me know in the comment section below. And I hope you all have a fantastic week. I will see you on next Tuesday's video for another Tuesday tone tip. Take it easy. Cheers.